Tomorrow is the 15th of August, India's Independence Day, and also Sri Aurobindo's birthday. And Sunday is going to be Janmashtami, Krishna Janmashtami. So, Aurobindo has a very deep connection with the energy known as Krishna, with the power known as Krishna. So, I don't want to speak too much about it because I'm not really the person who should speak about such. But it's very interesting because at very significant times of his life, he has been the Krishna Shakti, that vibration of consciousness that is known as Krishna, was working with Aurobindo and through Aurobindo. Now, when he had come back from England, he was not particularly a bhakta type. He did not have, and he was always more inclined to the Vedantic and the Shakti aspects than anything else. And for him, the Divine Mother was always the important thing. So when he was arrested on that sedition case, he was very happy actually, because now that he is in jail, he can concentrate on his sadhana. And he doesn't have to worry about editorials and printing and bringing out the Jugantar and bringing out so he was quite pleased. So over there he had this extraordinary mystical experience while awaiting the trial. He had this extraordinary experience where the Krishna became real to him. Krishna manifested to him, and then he saw Krishna in everybody. All the people with him, the thief, the murderer, even the jailer, he saw Krishna in him. Now see, Krishna is the Sampurna avatar, so Krishna is that descent of consciousness in its fullest manifestation. And in later years he said that Krishna was the man who understood this whole integral yoga, and he was the man who understood that the yoga has to be the body and the world has to be suffused with light, to be divinized. It is not that we escape, because the approach for 600-700 years in yoga and in Indian spirituality was that the aim of spiritual enlightenment, the aim of liberation, is to drop the body, to escape from the body, to escape from the world, to snuff out nirvana, we just escape. So Krishna was the person who had probably sensed that this was going to happen and tried to put in a spoke in the wheel to prevent it from going in that direction, where he articulated about karma yoga. And he said something quite spectacular in the Gita, where he finally, after spending all that time explaining the various philosophies, the various paths, the 4 kinds of karma, he explained the 4 kinds of yoga, and still Arjuna is not getting it. He finally says something quite extraordinary, saying, "You abandon all yoga and take refuge in me alone." Now only an enlightened person can say that. Only a person who has come to that stage of consciousness can say that you don't even need to do anything. If you just have complete Sharanagati, if you just have complete refuge in that, then the Shakti will flow and the Shakti will transform you. And a lot of the integral yoga, as Aurobindo used to teach it, was not process driven, because he understood the problem with process and system, that people would use the process and system to drop the body and escape. So he would constantly say that you just make yourself more and more receptive to the force, more and more receptive to the force. let the light descend, let the Shakti descend, and it will transform you. So, because when he was teaching processes, there were problems. People were, I know it myself because that lifetimes of spiritual practice and the entire atmosphere is such that the Vairagya instantly, the renunciation instantly activates. The abandonment of the body instantly activates, and even I, when I'm irritated, I'm like, I don't need you, I'll go to the Girivalam road, it's that deep seated. So Krishna was the first. These are all things that were there in the Upanishads and the Vedas, and of course the integral yoga is not even an Upanishadic approach, it's a Vedic approach. He goes back to the Vedas and he finds certain yogic principles in the Vedas which were not articulated, or no commentaries were written about them because they were possible only to be accessed by people who are enlightened. If you are enlightened and you look at the Vedas, then because your vibration is such, you can see that there are certain encoded teachings. So he went back, and his entire system of the integral yoga was a Vedic system, where this is how it used to be. This is the, even in one of the Upanishads it is there, that the whole world should be divinized. The world should not be escaped from. The whole world should be consecrated. So when he had this experience of Krishna, it lasted for days, where everything was only Krishna. And Krishna assured him that you stop bothering about your case. You will be out of it. So when his barrister came to meet him and wanted to discuss the case with him, Aurobindo actually told him, I'm not interested, you do whatever it is you want. And that experience of Krishna continued even when he was in court and the arguments were, and he was constantly seeing Krishna in everything, and Krishna was standing beside. So who was that? Jagdish Chandra, who was that barrister of Aurobindo? It doesn't matter, he was one of the very famous Bengali thing, and that person was quite a brilliant lawyer, and he just basically destroyed his career to defend Aurobindo, because you needed somebody who was at that level of power. So this was a very, very significant thing in Aurobindo, and that aspect of Krishna, or that awareness of Krishna, never left him. So in one sense it is quite clear that Krishna is a very vital part of not just yoga and the integral yoga also. Krishna is a very vital part. Now the mother, because the mother is of course indistinguishable from Sri Aurobindo, she used to get visions of Sri Aurobindo because her intuitive, she was never trained in any system. Everything was intuitive for her because she was a spiritual genius, and she would just start sadhanas on her own. And she would keep getting this vision of Sri Aurobindo, and she would identify him for some reason as Krishna, and she had never even read the Bhagavad Gita. You know? But the name she gave to the vision she was having was Krishna. Can you imagine how deep that? So when years later she came and she met him, she was like, this is Krishna. Now, many people go around claiming that they are partial or complete or reincarnations of Krishna and all that. I'm like, let that be, because Sampurna Avatar, to be the reincarnation of the full avatar, is okay. But it's just very interesting that in the integral yoga, which is what we do, our 8 spiritual breaths is basically the path of the integral yoga. The integral yoga is not a particular kind of philosophy or something. It is a whole breakthrough in consciousness, and it's a whole breakthrough in yoga, it's a whole breakthrough in what is possible, because the goal is now no longer to be enlightened and liberated. The goal is now to bring down the light and suffuse it into every living thing. So in that sense, Krishna was the person who had accomplished that yogic, and he was a person, and that vibration had become, that consciousness had become so strong in the world that those who were at the level of Aurobindo and the mother, they could feel it. So without even knowing, or without even reading the Bhagavad Gita, she identifies as Krishna. It's quite spectacular. So a lot of his work, a lot of what he would do, what he would write, he has written this phenomenal book called Essays on the Gita. It is one of the most important books. Any Hindu who understands the English language should have that book at home and should read it, because the entire outlay, the entire description, the entire map for the integral yoga is written in that book. And that and the secret of the Veda. But the secret of the Veda comes from such a high level of consciousness, and it is so completely different to all the other commentaries on the Vedas that most people don't know what to make of it, and you keep reading, but commentators on the Veda are of a different opinion. So I have a small suggestion to those Western commentators on the Veda. They can kiss my ass. They don't know anything about the Veda. You cannot understand the Veda unless you are in yoga. It's very interesting that Western commentators who have a yogic practice, who have been doing yoga for 20-30 years, they all line up on the side of Aurobindo. Inevitable. Anybody with a regular hardcore yogic practice instantly say, yes, what Aurobindo says about the yoga is correct. Those who are only scholars, those who are only one book to the other, they keep finding nature hymns. But the truth of the matter is the Veda is a sort of, it is not even a guidebook, it is not even a collection of experience of enlightened people. The Veda is a system for human evolution where we can move the human being forward. That is the Veda. So it's quite tragic that in our country the Aurobindo vision of the Vedas, which by the way is something that he got from Vivekananda and Ramakrishna, but at the moment what has happened is that the consciousness of the average person, even the normally brilliant person cannot go beyond the Upanishad. Vibrationally, the Upanishad is one step. It's not a very large step, it's a very tiny step, but still that one step lower than the Vedas. Most people are not able to go beyond the Upanishads. Just to come to the Upanishadic realization is also spectacular, but most people are not able to push through. I don't speak about the Vedic aspects of the integral yoga because there is no point. Given how things are in the world today, it all just goes sailing over. Aurobindo once famously said that to be enlightened and liberated is just the first step in the integral yoga. Now that you are enlightened and liberated, we can go forward. So Krishna was the man, and Krishna was the man where he had this aspect of drawing down the transformative force. When he said that to Arjuna, that abandon all yogas, just drop all yogas and surrender to me, he opened up that old Vedic channel again. That old Vedic channel, which was not a methods and system driven, but just an authentic and awareness driven, where just the Shakti is flowing, the force is flowing. So when Krishna said that, he suddenly opened up that channel. And thing is, people break through individually, but they were not able to bring that light down, they were not able to bring that consciousness down into the larger collective consciousness of mind. They were not able to speed up the process of evolution. At the moment consciousness has evolved, things are not so bad, because more and more people are getting enlightened, more and more people are awakening, more and more people are doing serious sadhana. More, of course, more and more people are lunatics also. That is the other. We know, we have met some of them. Names shall not be taken. But so this centrality of Krishna to Aurobindo, Aurobindo appears to be a very cold and Himalayan mountaintop philosopher. Not true. He was an extremely emotional, extremely passionate person. And that is because Krishna, you don't have anything better than Krishna, that whole vibration of Krishna is very strong. So the fact is, when Krishna said that, abandoning all yogas, surrender to me, that is the whole core of the integral yoga. Whatever it is that we do, even the breaths we do, so that one day we can come to that level of perfect surrender, and then the force starts flowing through us, and to prepare our system. The breaths are done to enlarge and widen our physical system, our emotional system, our pranic system, so that when the force starts transforming, when the light starts transforming. There is something called the supramental light, which is really a terrible phrase that he chose. I don't know why such a brilliant man chose such a terrible phrase. It was a real, but okay, I'll get into all that one day. Today we'll talk about the Krishna aspect. So he was pushing the boundaries of yoga. You see, Aurobindo was constantly pushing the boundaries of yoga. All that is being done in the world, okay, now let's go into these new dimensions. And so he came to a stage where he needed some help, and he asked two people that, will you bind your energy to mine? He asked Shiva, and Shiva said, no, I am not putting my energy into embodiment. I am not putting my energy into bodily limitation. But Krishna agreed. Now, there is no proof of this. It is just what has been said. Aurobindo said that this has happened. So the energy of Krishna not only was the inspiration for the integral yoga, it actually jumped right in. It actually jumped right in to help the process, to help that whole evolution, because the integral yoga is conscious evolution. Now I know it sounds bizarre and weird to say that we are in a process of conscious evolution. Till you actually begin to experience that, you will think this is madness, but when you experience it, you will realize there is no other sanity. This is actually the most important thing on the planet. See, because it's very easy, given the way consciousness is today, it's very easy to attain your, very easy means comparatively speaking, it's very easy to attain your personal enlightenment and your personal liberation. The pathways are like highways. It's so easy to just jump and do it. But the planet and the consciousness of the planet, not the planet, but the human species is at a crisis. The human species has come to a state where either we evolve or we die. Not just yogis, even somebody like Buckminster Fuller said the same thing. Either we evolve or we die. Now, if we do not shift our consciousness, we will create catastrophe. We are already as close to catastrophe, and the planet is getting ready to shake us off. It has done that. Whenever a living ecosystem has become a problem to the planet shakes it off. Dinosaurs, for instance, lived for many, many more millions, hundreds of millions of years than human beings have been on the planet. That approach didn't work. So then they tried the human approach. But there is a very genuine crisis of consciousness. There is a very genuine crisis of, will the human species survive or not? And it becomes everybody's responsibility to participate in that process. It becomes everybody's responsibility. See, genuine yogis don't care about opening hospitals and don't care about NGO work and things like that, because that is all part of the response, or the answer is still coming from the consciousness that created those problems. You cannot shift the problems of society with the same kind of thinking that created those problems. You have to think from a different layer, from a different zone, from a different aspect of consciousness, and Aurobindo was very, very clear about that. That the problems that the human species is facing is a consciousness issue. It is a way that they have certain traps that they have fallen into, and yoga has also unfortunately contributed to those traps with the disdain for the body and the desire to abandon the world and escape, which Krishna of course never did, because the whole hammering away of Krishna was karma yoga, engagement with the world. Arjuna even asks, why are you insisting on karma yoga? Because Krishna says very clearly, it is the best. It is the most important. And see, Krishna is very fearsome person, because he was willing to precipitate a war just so that one person like Arjuna can become enlightened. That is his scale of, so he is not a mild person, and he's quite a dangerous person, which is the reason why we prefer to think of him with Radha rather than, the Bhagavad Gita Krishna is a dangerous person. The romantic Krishna, oh how sweet. And the little boy who runs around stealing butter, so cute. Those are all manageable things. But the guy who's talking the Bhagavad Gita and who's setting out the integral yoga and who's just bluntly challenging you, abandoning all yoga, surrender to me, that person creates anxiety. That person creates tremendous anxiety. So, in that sense, it is not untrue to say that Krishna is the soul of the world. If there is an evolving consciousness today, if there is something that is pushing people to sanity and safety and outside the catastrophe that we have created, that is Krishna. That aspect of consciousness is Krishna. So Krishna is actually the soul of the universe, or the soul of the world. See, because Mrityuloka, our world is very important, because it is over here that karma burns up. It is over here that people can transcend the devas. This is very important. The devas are quite okay, you see. They can wait. Another 200, 300 million years is no problem for them. They can wait till another set of living beings come with that same level of consciousness and that same aspect of ability to transcend. So the devas have no problem. If we mess up the planet, fine, something else will come. But Krishna has a problem. So that is why he is the soul. He is the soul of evolution. He is the Shakti behind evolution in that clear sense. Of course, the actual Shakti is always that feminine vibration, whether you call it Kali or Lakshmi or Saraswati or Durga, that is a different matter. But Krishna in that sense is the soul of the world, and that is why it was very important for Aurobindo. That is why that bonding, you see, because Aurobindo had gone to a place in yoga, he had taken yoga to a place where he was alone in the entire universe. There was nobody living or dead who had gone to that space in except Shiva, but Shiva made it very clear, I am not getting into embodiment. So that is why you have, the Shakti of Shiva flows through the great rishis, Durvasa, Babaji, it flows through people like them, because he doesn't like that. The way the planet is, it's not a good idea if a Deva manifests, Smaller level Devas, it's fine. But Krishna was willing to gamble, because he's always like that. He's always willing to gamble. He's always willing to take that chance. And he's like, all right, Here is one human being who has pushed consciousness to this unprecedented and unique space in the universe. Right, let's jump right in. So when we talk of Krishna, we don't really understand what we are dealing with. And even if you read the Gita, you never get it until you read that essays on the Gita by Aurobindo. That's when you are like, the sheer, because Krishna brought back something also that had been forgotten and lost. He brought back the personal aspect of godhood. When he shows Arjuna the Vishwarupam, the universal form, that is the personal aspect of godhood called the Purushottama. Purusho mein Uttam, the Purushottama. There is, you can experience godhood as the Shakti, which is the feminine divine thing, or you can experience it in the impersonal form, which is the Brahman. And most people think that is all, those are the only two. But that is not true. There is a third aspect of the personalized godhood, the Purushottama, the divine being, which is a potential. And most sadhanas would end at either the experience of the Shakti, or they would end at the experience of the abstract. The without form, without qualities, and that was normally when they would experience that, it would be so blissful that they would just drop the body. And so Krishna again opened up that possibility, which is very clear in the Vedas. The Vedas, there are many verses on the Purusha and things like that. So Aurobindo was the man who pointed it out, that Krishna again opened up the third aspect of godhood, which is the Purushottama. So, to really, that's also the reason why I don't speak about Krishna, because most people are interested in Radha and Gopis and Rasa Leela, and a few people are interested in what he did in the Mahabharata, but all those are actually trivial compared to what Krishna is. Krishna is the soul of the universe, Krishna is the soul of evolution, Krishna is beyond comprehension. You see, because Krishna is both of the world and not of it. He is not a transcendent power, He is not the Devas in that sense, while they can engage with the world and they can send Shakti into the world and they can help and they can manifest and they can give you darshan, they are never of the world. They are never of this loka. They are never of this dimension. Krishna is and he is not. So that is where his most spectacular thing is. Now, whether he is avatar of Vishnu or Vishnu is avatar of Krishna doesn't matter. At the moment, the Shakti is with something called Krishna. At the moment, the Krishna is that aspect. The Narayana is the Vishnu Narayana is the supporting aspect of the universe. It is the aspect that holds it in place. Shiva, of course, is everything. Shiva is the, but again, when we are talking of Shiva, if we are talking about that person who is staying in Kailas and has a family and all that, those are still attainable. When we are talking of that full aspect of Shiva, again, Aurobindo, Krishna, very few get there. So let us not talk about Shiva like that. Let us leave that. Even to get to where Krishna wanted or where Aurobindo wanted, while it is difficult, it is not. The very fact that they have done it means that we can also, maybe not in this lifetime, but it is there. There is no achievement by one enlightened human being that does not instantly become possible for all the people who follow. That is the great thing about yoga. It is not a one-time thing. The minute one person breaks through, it then becomes a potential for everybody else. So if we look at, when we do the breaths, we are just not doing it so that we don't, you start using walker and spend the last 3 years of our bed on our bed, the last 3 years of life on our bed. We are doing something very important. We are participating in the evolution of consciousness. We are participating in the evolution of this entire loka, this entire dimension. So it must be done with that, and that is why it is serious business. What we are doing, that is the method, that is what is called the skillful means, that is the means to do, but the real thing is we are waiting for the force, we are waiting for the light to transform. We are preparing ourselves for that descent, and when it happens, if there aren't enough, if there is not a quorum, if there are not that many awakened people, again the Loka will miss its chance. Because Aurobindo tried doing it on his own and he realized it can't work because there is too much tamas, there is too much inertia in the consciousness. I explained this before, he brought it down to every level except the physical. He brought the light down to every level except the physical level just defeated. That is why he dropped his body, because no more work could be done from embodiment. He had to start working. And that is also why I don't get into bhakti of Krishna, because Krishna is actually very important to me also. But I don't get into bhakti of him because it is not something that you start to have a bhakti relationship. It is something that you have start an emulating relationship. I should become like, I should grow towards that. So those are the reasons. But since this close coincidence of Aurobindo's birthday and Krishna's birthday together, I said, we might as well at least let there be a record. Let somebody say. Even now I haven't started. If you want, one day I can maybe take up the Secret of the Yoga, because like I say, it is compulsory reading. Secret of the Vedas and this Essays on the Gita. These two books you must read. Because until you get that, you won't understand what we are doing in the integral yoga. You won't understand what we are doing in the 8 spiritual breaths. Then the roadmap becomes clear. Yes, little depression will also happen because you are like, oh mother, I didn't realize. But why worry? Krishna is there, no? He has great sense of humor. He might just help you suddenly. Krishna is very famous, no? That aspect of Krishna is very famous, no? That his blessings have no logic to them. He will just give to anyone. So why not? We have God with sense of humor. Most other cultures, gods are very grim, and we have gods with sense of humor. It's fine. Yeah, so that is what Krishna means. That is what Krishna means in the world. Yes, all those other things are there, all those mythological stories and all those are there, but all those are basically of no importance. That's not what Krishna symbolizes. At least in the integral yoga, that is not what. I am not saying if you have Krishna Bhakti, of course, but please realize that this flute player is much more than the flute player. There is such a thing, even for the universe it is difficult to make two. Such a thing is possible only once. Yes? Sarvam Shivamaya.